Hello everyone, my name is Dylan Addington. I am the product manager for Sentinel. I'm here today to talk through Sentinel itself, our technology and what we're doing with nitrogen management, and also here to talk about an exciting opportunity to partner with TAPS this year with Sentinel. We will be providing our technology across multiple TAPS locations this year and allowing access to our technology for a lot of the competitors. So I'm here today to talk through Sentinel, what we do as a technology and as a platform, and also what it is going to look like with Sentinel when it comes to the TAPS competition itself. I also have contact information for Sentinel employees at the end of this slideshow. So if you have questions about our platform, want to partner with us in a commercial setting, or have questions around Sentinel and TAPS, after this presentation, we'd be more than happy to talk with you. So what is Sentinel? Sentinel is a company that started a few years ago. Jackson Stansel, our CEO and founder, was doing his graduate work at UNL and recognized that nitrogen management is a problem that is faced in commercial agriculture that hasn't really been solved yet. It's a high input cost product that everybody deals with, as well as a detrimental product to the environment if used in excessive amounts, which a lot of commercial agriculture is currently experiencing. So he looked to solve this problem by utilizing a technology that he came up with in his graduate work to optimize nitrogen use in cropping systems to maximize yield potential, maximize profitability, and also preserve the environment and natural resources. He developed N-Time. N-Time is a solution based on his research out of UNL, and it's been proven in the field. At a high level, it provides imagery-based nitrogen recommendations. We provide in-season rate and timing recommendations for nitrogen, utilizing satellite imagery right now, but also other imagery sources as well. On-farm trials and commercial results since 2021 have shown, on average, we've been able to increase profitability by almost $24 per acre. That's at baselines. We've seen higher numbers than that, and also over 30% improvement in nitrogen use efficiency. These have scaled year over year, and we've seen that customers and users that have come back and used N-Time year over year have continued to boost their profitability and efficiency when it comes to nitrogen. We're really excited about those numbers, and we think this technology is a really useful tool in the world of agriculture. So what do we do? I mentioned that Sentinel software delivers daily crop nitrogen demand measurements. We do this in season based on satellite imagery. We also have a forecasted crop dynamics model that together provide in-season rate and timing recommendations for nitrogen. Data-wise, we're bringing in imagery, specifically NDRE, weather information, operations data, as well as more field-specific data points, such as soil management zones, things of that nature. We're providing in-season insights where we can isolate nitrogen impacts, measure and forecast nitrogen sufficiency and demand based on imagery, and then provide recommendations throughout the season. So these are usually in the form of apply or do not apply, depending on what the nitrogen demand is looking like in the field and what that sufficiency value looks like. We provide rates based on those modeled amounts, and we can also provide prescriptions as well. So not necessarily applicable to TAPS, but we also provide both flat and variable rate prescriptions that you can execute in a fertigation setting, in a ground rig application setting. So if you're using machinery in the field, kind of whatever your application technique is, we can usually provide a prescription to be able to execute these nitrogen prescriptions in the field. All-in, which is our kind of new comprehensive nitrogen management strategy, utilizes basically two pipelines together to give you a completely accurate nitrogen recommendation in season. So I mentioned imagery, where we're capturing NDRE imagery, we're detecting nitrogen sufficiency levels throughout the field on a near daily amount. We're running that through our Sentinel algorithm to give you a real-time in-season measured nitrogen demand. Then we also have a crop model that works in tandem with the imagery, where we take in SI values from images, weather information, crop and soil information, application information, and other data points to give you a forecast of nitrogen demand, so be able to tell you what nitrogen demand looks like into the future. And then we pair those two together and calibrate them together to give you a in-depth nitrogen recommendation, both timing, rate, and spatial recommendation for nitrogen in the field. So this is the first truly comprehensive image and model fused nitrogen management product in the market. We also do our image calibration a little bit differently. So we use paired plot calibration techniques to calibrate our imagery to detect nitrogen sufficiency. So these, we call them Canary and reference plots. They're basically a high and low nitrogen plot that we place out in the field. The NDRE imagery is really good at detecting nitrogen sufficiency and nitrogen demand values in those plots. The canary, which is like the canary in the coal mine, is set behind the rest of the field as far as nitrogen amount. So we know if we're detecting a deficiency in that plot, we have a 5 to 7 day window where the rest of the field will follow. And so we can give kind of outlook recommendations to apply nitrogen to make sure that the bulk of the field is always in that optimal range. So we use it as a check strip for calibrating our imagery and making sure that the bulk of the field is always in that optimal zone, not over applying nitrogen, but also not stressing the crop by making it nitrogen deficient. So we use this paired plot calibration with our image-based recommendations to make sure that we are giving timely nitrogen recommendations and getting the nitrogen on when it's needed, not when we're guessing. So some tools that kind of go into this all-in platform that I talked about being our comprehensive nitrogen management tool. The first is our nitrogen scenario planner. So this allows you to kind of simulate different approaches to nitrogen management. So we allow you to fill in different application techniques, application timings, amounts, products, as well as some cost information to try and get to kind of what your optimal nitrogen management scenario would be for a given field. So it's meant to be kind of a planning tool so that you can play around with different nitrogen management techniques and see what the estimated efficacy might be of those management techniques. So a really good kind of preseason planner, as well as a simulation tool that you can use throughout the season to kind of continue to tailor what your planned strategy might be. I've talked about this a lot now, but we also have kind of the detecting nitrogen demand tool in the toolbox. So that's our image-based in-season recommendations. So we manage nitrogen similar to how you would like soil moisture. So there's obviously a high end where you're over applying, and we don't want that. And there's a low end where you're under applying, and that's stressing the field and the crop and kind of hurting your ROI. And so there's an optimal range that we want to keep nitrogen in for the plant where it's uptaking enough to continue moving towards crop maturity, but it's not over applying and kind of hurting your pocketbook at the end of the day. So managing it kind of in that optimal zone and continuing to calibrate those decisions day to day as imagery comes in to make sure that we always keep it in that optimal zone. We also have an on-demand application rec. So this is the kind of pairing imagery and model together to give you an on-demand nitrogen recommendation no matter where you're at in the season. So if you're before V6 when imagery can really take over, if you're kind of late season and want to know what amount of nitrogen you need to kind of get you to the end of the season, and maybe you can't get in the field, so on and so forth. So no matter where you're at in the season, this on-demand nitrogen recommendation tool is meant to give you the option to always be able to generate a nitrogen prescription. Whether you have imagery, whether you have things in the field that are holding you back from kind of using those in-season image-based recommendations, this tool will always give you an accurate nitrogen recommendation based on the best information we have for your field at any given point. So a really powerful tool here for throughout the season nitrogen recommendations. We also have a justification tool, so this is geared towards trying to drill down to optimizing each individual application. So for instance, perhaps we've recommended that you apply nitrogen, in the next 7 days. We've given you the rate that we recommend, but depending on what the weather does, throughout those days, the success of that nitrogen application could vary wildly. So we give a 7-day weather forecast. We bring in information for the nitrogen application itself, as well as cost information. And depending on the day, the weather scenario for the day you select, we can give estimated ROI values and nitrogen uptake values for that application if you were to make it on that day. And so if you play around with the different days throughout that 7-day forecast, you can get to kind of what the optimal application day is to give you the best return on your investment, the best bang for your buck for that application that you were already planning on applying anyways. So a really useful tool in really dialing in the nitrogen applications that you have planned. So that's Sentinel, that's all in, and kind of what we're doing from a comprehensive in-season nitrogen management perspective. So that's what Sentinel does. I want to talk now about our TAPS partnership and what it looks like within TAPS itself this year. So we are providing our technology to all of the TAPS competitors at multiple locations this year. There's a few example workflows that we see you as a competitor using our technology this year. The first one is kind of the early season, what I like to call the early season plan and monitor workflow. So utilizing our nitrogen scenario simulator, you could test appropriate nitrogen programs to get you through that early season side dress. So giving you that, that first application or that early application to get you to kind of where our imagery would take over. You could then use that imagery to monitor and track crops' nitrogen sufficiency throughout the season. If and when we, recommend a nitrogen application, your crop's approaching deficiency, we can help you decide to apply. If we're not getting imagery, or you're just kind of curious in between application decisions, if your field needs nitrogen and you want to kind of come up with a nitrogen amount that you would apply for the next application timing, you could use the on-demand RX as well. And then obviously after you make applications or are kind of moving through the TAPS competition, you can continue to monitor and then make future application decisions as well. So really getting to that early season plan and then using our technology to monitor and make application decisions throughout the season. The second one is similar, but it would be more of like a full season plan and then adapt as you go. So using our nitrogen scenario simulator, you could simulate different full season nitrogen programs for a field versus what you would typically do on your farm. This would help you develop a full season nitrogen program with application timings that you're comfortable with. You could use the on-demand RX or our image-based recommendations to generate prescriptions at predefined application timings. So you've already come up with your planned applications. Now you just want to kind of get the dialed in rate and timing of those. You can also use our justification tool. So those planned applications, do they still make sense at this window, or should I adapt my plan strategy a little bit to apply at a different time? And then obviously the image-based recommendations and that monitoring and tracking crops nitrogen sufficiency will always be an option, so you can continue to monitor that and use that to tailor those planned applications as well. And then kind of the third workflow is strictly monitoring. So I think this is kind of the most hands-off approach, but still gives you good information. If you have kind of a set in stone nitrogen program that you've already laid out for TAPS, and you just want to determine more or less the timing for your plot or whether or not to make an application during the window. You could utilize our program to just track crop sufficiency to better inform, whether it's a go, no go, or, if I need to apply during this window or not. So just strictly using our technology to track what the crop's doing, and make a decision based off of that. So those are just a few example workflows that I think you could utilize our technology within TAPS this year, and could provide another tool in your toolbox. Although I hate using that expression, but another tool in your toolbox to help determine your nitrogen application timings for the competition, or whether or not an application is needed, so on and so forth. Now I like to talk about TAPS tips. Compared to our commercial implementation, so on a normal production field, our technology is set up a little bit differently for TAPS, and it's worth calling out what that does to the efficacy of our technology. So the first one is kind of depending on the competition structure at the location you're competing at. Recommendations will potentially not be specific to your plot area. So you might think that, if you're getting a recommendation out of our platform, it's specific to your competition plot. But depending on how they're structuring the trials this year, it's more or less going to be a kind of field-wide recommendation. So if we're detecting nitrogen deficiency, it's going to be more or less for the whole field. And then you'll kind of have to take that into account when making decisions for your specific plot. So the way our technology is structured with those paired plots, and the calibration techniques there, we kind of have to do it that way. The plots that are within TAPS are usually so small that we can't really provide plot-specific nitrogen recommendations. But you can still use those field-wide recommendations and sufficiency values to help inform your plot-specific decisions as well. So we're still really confident that it'll be applicable to your competition, and to your decision making when it comes to your competition plot. It's also worth noting that TAPS controls a lot of the operations within the competition. So products, techniques, application timings are all controlled by TAPS. So our technology could recommend that you need to make a nitrogen application within the next few days, but maybe the TAPS application window, the next TAPS application window isn't for another week or so. So you'll have to wait and kind of make that recommendation be applied within the next available window. So it's a little unfortunate. Our technology kind of has its hands tied with that. We think that it'll probably be pretty closely aligned with application windows throughout the season, just with how the competition is structured there. But if we make a recommendation and TAPS isn't planning on applying nitrogen for the next few days, you may just have to take that into account when making your decision to apply or not. I mentioned it earlier, but plot size within TAPS fields is very small compared to our commercial plots. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in the next slide, but it does mean that our viability of our satellite imagery to detect SI values will probably be a little bit lower. We're still confident that we can detect SI values accurately and provide accurate nitrogen recommendations, but it's worth calling out that the plots are a fraction of the size of what we normally work with, and so there could be some reduction in accuracy, but we won't know that until we're kind of getting into the season and seeing what those plots are structured like. We've already touched base with all the TAPS coordinators. We're confident that the way they have all of these competition plots structured, that we will be just fine, but we wanted to call that out for sure. So this is what I'm kind of talking about. On the right here is our commercial plot setup. Each one of these plots is more or less an acre in size, so they're quite a bit larger than what we're looking at for the TAPS plots that are on the left. They're quite a bit smaller within TAPS, and so that just means that the resolution of our satellite imagery, it's a little bit harder to pick up the SI values for individual plots when they're this small. Again, we've talked with all the TAPS coordinators. and we're confident that we'll still be able to provide accurate nitrogen recommendations, but it is worth knowing that they are set up considerably different than how we normally do it in a commercial setting. And so it'll be a bit of a learning process for us as well, but we conducted our technology in taps last year and had great success with it. So we're confident that it'll continue to work this year, but just wanted to make everybody aware. With that, I will wrap it up. This slide shows our account management team for Sentinel. This whole team will be available for questions and talking with competitors about Sentinel and our technology. We're covering all of the TAPS competitions as a team, so we'll all be more than happy to answer questions or have conversations with you about our technology. We're really excited about partnering with TAPS again this year and being able to provide our technology to the competitors and use it as a tool for helping to dial in their competition when it comes to nitrogen management. So with that, I will close it there. Again, if you have any questions or want to know more, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If it's a TAPS specific question, I'll probably point you towards your competition coordinator. And you should have their contact information, I'm sure. But if you have questions about Sentinel or our technology, we'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you. We're really excited about this year. We want to wish all of the competitors the best of luck, and we look forward to talking with you in the future. Thank you so much.